Suffice it to say that I don't share this information because I want to tell anyone they're doing it wrong. I just share stuff because it's what I've experienced. It's what I've found. Then when I do further research into it, I learned that, oh, cardboard deprives the soil of oxygen, especially in my zone where it's dry. That makes a lot of sense. So I starved out all the soil life underneath that mulch when I didn't even need it. I didn't even need the cardboard. I could have just used the mulch and it would have had the same effect. That's all I'm trying to share. Just sprinkles of my mistakes. We have got a lot of action happening today at the house with the construction. They are chipping out a lot of the brick to put in the beams, and so I'm back here at the barn because it's very loud up there. So today we have some other chores to do. I have to show you guys how cute the barn looks right now. I have it all decked out for Thanksgiving. My mom grabbed a whole set of vintage false graph from the thrift store. So we have a whole bunch of these. We've got our pumpkins out. We've got our dried Virginia creeper, some northern sea oats. Thanksgiving is my favorite time of year. I am bigger on Thanksgiving, I think, than on Christmas because there's just less pressure. But today, here at the farm, throw some more leaf mulch on. I'm also gonna dig in our daffodils. So yes, Roosevelt, I hear you. So we haven't had a chance yet to plant our daffodils that we dug up and divided. Once our daffodils have been in the ground for about 3-4 years, that's when we typically start to divide them. So just because they multiply underground. But also we had our daffodils in a bad spot. It was too wet for them over the summer, so they didn't really rebloom that well. So we're gonna plant them in a spot that actually doesn't get a whole lot of summertime water. It never ends. Okay, hey boys, hello. There's been a coyote sleeping behind the barn, and so we've got our electric fence all wired up here because ideally we don't want our sheep getting eaten by a coyote, ideally. But we set up a little extra grazing area in the back. We just want to give them a little more space to roam, but we can only let them in there during the day when I'm here because coyote. This gives them a little extra space where they can play. Everyone let me know last week, and thank you for this, that I can test the electric fence with a piece of grass. So we'll test that today. Let's go try it on the other fence. You guys have saved my hands from ongoing electrical shocks. This YouTube channel is now worth it for that one helpful tip alone. Not a ton of grass around. Obviously this time of year, everything is dormant and they've grazed most of this. So we'll just throw some grass hay in here, and at least we can move it around in this space so they're not just confined to one spot, which helps them with parasite load. But they really actually like to eat leaves at this time of year anyway, to the dry grass. So we'll let them hang out back here for a while. My cooler is a mess right now. Don't judge me. Let's see. Yes. Our last Lysianthus. Guess I could probably get rid of these. Man, though, these have been in the cooler for about a month. They don't look all that bad, considering. Here are the daffodils. They're still firm. So I think we're okay. I'm not going to plant these too carefully, to be quite honest with you. A lot of them are small, so we sold a lot of them. We sold the bigger ones. These are the smaller side shoots that we split this year. So I'm going to mostly just throw these in the ground. They'll find their way up. You really don't have to plant them pointing up. Now, one of the things I really wanted to show you today was this area in front of our house and what we've been doing to get this soil ready for planting. So this area is all going to be a planted bed next year. So this is a great way if you are looking to convert existing grass into a garden space for next year. Now is the time to go ahead and start prepping and doing this if you want to try this method. I already know I'm going to get the comments about, hey, you should just put down some cardboard and put some soil on top and then you're good to plant. I know that this is a method. Yes, we have done it. I don't do it anymore, and now I don't like it. If you watched our video in the past about starting garden beds 3 different ways, we compared no-dig, lasagna method, and our own kind of native soil method. And the soil tests for the native soil method were both much better. We didn't have to worry about putting weird stuff into our soil. Cardboard is just one of those ingredients where we're just not sure yet what kind of impact it has on our soil, and in terms of heavy metals, potential PFAS or forever chemical contamination, which is really common in paper products. And there was actually a really interesting study done recently with chickens and different chicken bedding. They studied chickens that used pine shavings, chickens that used recycled cardboard as bedding, and there was one more, I can't remember, but you'll see it when I put this up on the screen. And what happened was they found that the chickens who were bedded with recycled cardboard showed elevated levels of PFAS contamination in both their meat and their eggs. So what does this tell us? That there's potentially PFAS in cardboard. I don't want to be putting it on my garden. It's just too hard to know what's in it. But there's actually even another issue with using cardboard in the garden, which is its effect on the soil microbiome, at least in the short term. Here in Colorado, we're pretty dry, so that means we don't tend to get a ton of moisture unless we're artificially irrigating or watering. So cardboard takes a long time to break down. The other piece of that is that studies have shown that the ability for oxygen and moisture to get down through cardboard layers is hindered pretty significantly, especially in comparison to natural mulches, things like wood chips that have a lot of different pieces and parts and air spaces, and oxygen is able to get down to the soil level much better through wood chip mulch than cardboard or layers of newspaper. But anyway, I'll put my sources below as I always do. Feel free to take what I say and run with it, or take it with a grain of salt, or take it, throw it in the garbage, whatever. I'm just going to show you what we've done. So what we did up here, this is actually an area that we did some tests on some different garden beds, but there was still grass growing in between. In those in-between spaces, we had just put down a nice thick layer of mulch. Here you can see after 1 year what we're looking at here. And again, this was last fall that we did this, so this has been exactly 1 year. So if you have areas that you know you want to do at some point, but maybe you're not quite there yet, this can be a great way to get started. Simply scalp the grass down as close to the surface of the soil as possible, and then you just layer wood chip mulch on top. You don't need cardboard, you don't need paper. If you do this thickly, it's going to deprive it of the sunlight that it needs to grow, and it's going to kill off the vegetation. So you can see now what we have is a nice layer of humus. There's some wood chips mixed in. You don't need all the other stuff, just a scalp, a nice thick mulch. Let's take a look at another area just so you can know that I didn't just pick out that area. And over here, this is pretty thick. And I do apply it fairly thickly. Make sure you're using arborist mulch, not wood chips from bags, which can contain things like lumber from construction, which can be treated with different things. You want to just use arborist wood chips. You can see this has sticks, it's got twigs, pine needles and stuff mixed in. That's totally fine, because we're going to keep it on the surface of the soil. We're not going to mix it in. If we plant, we're just going to scooch it aside like this. We'll dig our hole and we'll plant right into it. You can see here's another spot. Oh yeah, look at this. Look at that. So this area here was an area that when we moved in, it was very, very weedy. And so we wanted to just kind of smother it for a while until we knew what we wanted to do with it. And so we did cardboard, and you can see there's still, I mean, this was 5 years ago, but there's still pieces of it here in the ground. And if I dig, so here's still some cardboard. Also, bad me, I didn't take off all the tape. This definitely does not help matters. Make sure you remove all the tape, otherwise you have this. And here is some cardboard remnant. And underneath this cardboard remnant, we have cracking soil. We have very compacted soil. This is not frozen soil. This is just very hard. Ugh. So I can't even really get into this. Now let's go look at an area where we just did deep mulch instead and no cardboard. So just to illustrate, I was just right there. That's where I just was that we saw that. Just right over here, not that much further away. This we did the same mulch, but we did no cardboard underneath. And here, if I clear this away, look at this. Look at how I can dig into this soil. And it's not, I didn't just pick this spot, like I didn't pre-choose that spot. I can dig anywhere and it's the same. Yeah, all of this has died. This has all been broken down. No cardboard. I managed to get my hole dug without embarrassing myself too much, although I did knock over my wheelbarrow with the backhoe. But I dug my hole, planting these about 6 inches deep, and I just leveled out the area, slightly loosened. I'm not going to add anything to this planting hole because our soil is fine, it doesn't really need it, but this is a better area to plant the daffodils because it doesn't get water in the summer. There's really no irrigation up here. It's near the house, so it's dry, so we'll get some spring blooms, and then once it dries out here, the daffodils will be able to perennialize better. I'm just going to toss these in here because I don't have time for that, and that's totally fine. They will find their way to the surface even if they're not pointing up. If I were planting these daffodils for production, I would definitely space them more specifically, but because these were mostly going to get tossed in the trash anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and plant them this way. When you're planting bulbs, usually in a landscape, it's nice to do big swaths of them like this. Alright, I got those daffodils planted, but now, as you'll recall, we were saving all of the bricks we've been chipping off on the back of the house, so I have a load of bricks to go through and chisel off all the mortar. As always, if you liked this video, if you learned something, or if you just enjoyed watching, remember to like and subscribe. It means a whole lot to us here at the farm, and we'll see you guys around here soon.